Hello again. I'd like to share with you for these brief 9 minutes a little bit about what I mean. Your heart is your teacher. But first, let us pray. Let us be still. And as we breathe in, be aware. Be aware of the silence. Be aware of the love. Be aware of gentleness. Be aware of peace. I'd like you to just be aware of the rhythm of your heartbeat. And relax. And relax in the knowledge that your life matters, that you are important, that you have a purpose here. And we offer this recording to you in the name of love, giving thanks to God, the Father, Mother, God of all faiths, and none. When I say your heart is your teacher, this statement may challenge you, particularly if you come from the head where you process everything. I know in my life, for the best part of half a century, I worked from my head. I came from my head. Everything had to be processed in my head before I could make sense of anything. That was my upbringing. That was my training as a nurse. But as one in service to a God of all faiths and none, I had a few sharp shock lessons in getting from the head into the heart. And one of the lessons I was given was to read about the gospel of peace of Jesus Christ the Essene. Then I was guided to read about the Nazarene Essenes and the Therapeutai Essenes of Egypt. And then I began to realize that here I discovered that they were the founding fathers of psychotherapy, that their teaching worked on the mind, bringing it into subjection to the heart, reawakening the heart so that the heart became aware of God. And as a follower of Francis, Franciscan spirituality is more heart-centered than it is head-centered, because it embraces God's truth, it embraces God's love, it embraces God through the natural world, the Franciscan soul of peace, integrity, and compassion. So when I say your heart is your teacher, what I'm saying is honor your heart. Have you ever been to a party with friends and your best friend says, oh, I want you to meet so-and-so, they're fabulous, they're wonderful, they really are the in-person in every party, but let me introduce you. And as you come up to meet them, you get a sudden feeling in your heart, there's something about you I don't know, I don't like. So I'm going to be on my guard, and your friend sort of gives you the third degree. You know what I mean? Because I've been to some parties like that where you immediately think, I'm not going there. And you sense a lot of peer pressure to give in, and you do give in. And then you learn to regret it. So what I'm saying is, there's an example that your heart is your teacher. Your heart is trying to explain to you to listen. And go by what you're feeling, what you're sensing, and not what you're thinking or being told. And that's why so many people today are so disillusioned with life. There's that ache in their heart, isn't there? There's a search. To give you an example, I remember a good few years ago walking down Oxford Street in London, one of the busiest streets in London. It's so cosmopolitan. It's a fun place to be. But everybody's rushing. And I never seen so many gloomy faces in all my life. And in the underground, I'd never been in the underground proper until I went to visit a friend in London, and I was petrified. It was like a whirlwind of body flesh. They were coming at you in their thousands, and they were pushing you in their drones, and you're on these conveyor belts and everything is woof woof, and I just thought, get me out of here. And then when you get into the tube, everybody's stern looking. They're all preoccupied with their own issues and agendas. There's no compassion, there's no communication, there's no laughter, nothing. Everybody's in their own little world. And it's quite frightening. And that's what happens when we come to God, to truth, God's truth, from our head. We're sort of in a cocoon, an isolation, a prison. But once we're guided to come to God in our heart, there's a reawakening to who you are as a child of God. And that reawakening is a healing process because it takes you by the hand of Spirit and it affirms you, and you become aware that all around you there are messengers of light who are speaking to you. No, don't go there. Follow your hunch. Go straight ahead. And very often the directions that we're given are very clear. And sometimes we battle with that, because then we think, I know better than that, or better than they. So the old ego kicks in. And then we end up making a mistake, and we fall flat on our mush. And we find it difficult to get up again because we're so busy, preoccupied with feeling sorry for ourselves or licking our wounds. But trust me, your heart is your teacher. Your heart already knows what you have to do. Because I believe before we were born, we were given the sense of righteousness and truth encoded in our heart, in our spirit, in our soul. And yet people talk about the Moses code. Well, hello. What about your code? You have that code already within you. You came into this incarnation with that information, and it's impregnated in your spirit. That spirit of God's love is there. And that's where we have a conscience. We know intuitively if we do a wrong act, we will know. But if we start playing mind games, then we come away from our protection zone and we leave ourselves open to attack. Don't we? Now, I'm not here to tell you what to do. And I'm not here to say that this is the only way, because that's arrogance. I've done that as a Catholic Christian, and I ain't doing it now as a member of the Interfaith Franciscans. I'm asking you to go into your heart each day, to make time each day to be still. You nourish your mind by reading, you nourish your body by feeding, but what about your heart? What about your spirit? What about that part of you that lives forever? Don't you think that we should honor the traditions of the Native American Indians? My word, they got it right. And yet they were persecuted, weren't they? They have so much to share with us. But if you come from your heart, you will listen. And in the listening process, you will hear the voice of God's Spirit. Regardless of your belief, you will hear and you will acknowledge and you will receive. And in a previous video, we talked about mirror signal maneuver. Well, today I invite you to come back to your heart, because your heart is your teacher and your heart will never lie to you. Bless you and thank you.